Hi, everyone. My name is Kim. I'm with the QGIve team, and welcome to Why Aren't Donors Engaging with Your Emails? We're very happy to have you joining us today. If you haven't had the opportunity to work with us before, we're an online fundraising platform dedicated to helping nonprofits like yours raise more money, and part of how we do that is through webinars like this one. So today's webinar will be about 45 minutes or so with a Q&A session to follow, keeping our total time together to just about an hour. We will be recording the presentation and sending each of you a follow-up email tomorrow afternoon, and it will have a link to the recording, a copy of the presentation, as well as a couple other great links to some wonderful resources. We are live tweeting today, so if you are a Twitter user, please go ahead and join the discussion. Our username is QGIve, and that's going to be at #QGiveWebinar. If you do have questions throughout, please put them in the Q&A, and we will, the questions box, and we'll handle Q&A at the end of the presentation. And also just a heads up, after the webinar, you're going to have a prompt to complete a survey, and your feedback is so crucial in determining future content that we use here for webinars and other resources. So please, be on the lookout to take that quick survey. Before diving into today's presentation, let's just take a quick peek at QGIV's background, mission, and offerings. QGIV's been helping nonprofits implement and grow their online fundraising program since 2007. And as the importance of online giving has grown, our mission has remained the same, and that's to help others fulfill their passion to make a difference. So we do that through our comprehensive suite of fundraising tools, featuring things like donation forms, event registration, peer-to-peer fundraising, text giving with outbound messaging, auction events, you name it. We also value our relationships and are proud to connect our nonprofit friends to our partner network in hopes that this helps you increase your nonprofit's effectiveness and success. So today we are excited to introduce you to one of our partners, Amplify, who specializes in mission-focused messaging, integrated communications, data-driven relevancy, and analytical assessment and adaptation. Wow, that's just a lot. So I'm sure Jesse will explain that. So as you can see, Jesse, the man waving, and also the gentleman on the slide here is our subject matter expert and speaker. He's the president of Amplify, and he brings a plethora of knowledge. Jesse, over to you.
Hey, everyone. Thanks to QGIve for giving us the opportunity. And I'm really glad that we got a lot of people on today to listen to what I have to say. So forgive the picture, it's a pandemic picture. My kids make fun of it all the time, but I know some people like it. Today, we're really gonna, let me make sure that I can get these slides going. 1 second, took a minute before. There we go. So today we are gonna talk about emails. But before we talk about emails, let me just give a bit more understanding of how we approach emails. So, at Amplify, we're really a strategic communications firm that works with nonprofits to empower their fundraising communications. It's really from A to Z, data analysis and strategy to execution, such as creative, messaging and design, or digital execution, and even traditional print and direct mail. But everything that we do really actually is encompassed by a 4-part approach that we believe optimizes a communication. That approach is what we see here: mission-focused messaging, data-driven relevancy, integrated across multiple channels, and understanding how analytics can actually optimize results. And so this paradigm affects everything that we do and how we approach stuff. And today we're going to talk about what this looks like for emails and how we utilize this approach to help clients optimize their emails, and you can too. So I don't know about you, but my inbox is crazy. I literally get hundreds of emails every single day. And so how do you really stand out when you just are inundated with emails constantly? Work emails, personal emails, emails on 3 different emails that you have, one for junk mail, one for personal stuff. Everybody's emailing you. How do you make sure your messages get through? And to do this, we're going to focus really on 3 main points on optimizing your emails. It may seem simple, but emails are not quite as simple as everyone makes it out. So we're going to understand the basics of emails, really break it down. We're going to look at how you can utilize your data to empower your emails better. And we're going to really look at how analytics can drive it. So a couple things I forgot. One is I set a timer because those who know me know I can talk. And if I go too long, Kim will cut me off. So we're going to essentially make sure that we stay on track here and I can get your questions in. 2, I want to take a pause here to say I am not an expert in every email platform. There's a lot of great email platforms out there, from Constant Contact, MailChimp, Emma, Campaign Monitor, Illuminate, Salesforce, whatever you may have. I'm sure it works for you. Today is not to talk about the functions of any specific platform, but in general, how to optimize your emails and for you to go look to see if your platform can do that. Secondly, this presentation today is going to overview a bunch of different things. For some of you, if you've come in looking for the most advanced ways to do email, some of it might be a bit basic. Others, that might be very eye-opening. My goal is that everybody who's here today can walk away with 1 or 2 practical things that you can implement today to help your organization improve their emails. So we are going to touch on everything from basic to some advanced things that we do, and hopefully it works for you. So we've all probably gotten a statement from our boss or a board member. It's just an email, send it out. It's not that hard. Or is it really that simple? There's a lot more that goes into email than just sending something out. And those who know me know that I like to break things down. And so I want to get to a common definition right here on email. When we're talking about email, it's digital. It's sent directly to an individual recipient, whether it's part of a mass group or individual. So it's different than social media in that way. It's cost effective, more so than, say, direct mail. And it has a direct purpose of creating awareness, conveying information, or requesting user action. Email is not the same as social, not the same as online, your website, not the same as direct mail. And so it needs to be treated as email. I know, kind of basic. You can cue the eye roll. I'm not seeing you. That's okay. When we're looking at emails, this section, we're really going to break down here what makes up an email. I'm going to go over these different things and give you tips on how you can actually look at each one of these and see, am I doing this? Or is this something worthwhile for me to do? The first one is sender name. It's one of the most important things and one of the first things people see in an email. In fact, it really answers the question, who dis? Right? Because if you don't know who it is, why would I open it? And so make sure that your name is recognizable, whether it's your organization, whether it's a person's name. For example, somebody who might be named John Smith, even though they might be the CEO of your organization, might not actually be recognizable because there's a lot of John Smiths out there. So you might even want to do a John Smith at ABC company. Secondly, match the sender to the tone or purpose of the email. If you're sending out a more personal style email, you might want it to come from a person. If it's more about a newsletter, look at what's going on, it might want to come from the organization. If you're setting up a campaign, such as a giving day or a special fundraising campaign that you've named and titled, make the sender name the title of the campaign. You know, one of our clients for their giving day, it goes out under Del Barton Together. That's the name of their campaign. So match the sender name to the campaign, make it recognizable. A lot of times too, you want to use, you might want to use the head of the organization, but the head might not always be the most recognizable person to the constituency. And so, see what works for you, but you don't have to use the same thing every time. Mix it up. Sender email. Sender name is common. Many times people think about it. Not everyone thinks about sender email, but sender email really talks about, is this real? Is this just a mass email, or is this really coming, especially if you're using a person's name? We almost never recommend using no reply. So, very rare instances for that. If you're sending with a person's name, look at using the person's email. Now, pro tip here, if you don't want your CEO's email out there to your whole mass list, ask your IT to make up a made up email that sounds like it. We've done this before for colleges where it'll just be president at college ABC, type of thing. That's not actually their email, but it feels real. Some platforms allow you to have a different reply to email, so people can reply and not go to the sender name. You don't want to bury your CEO's inbox with replies. It can go to a gatekeeper. Another more advanced tip, it's a little technical. Look into authenticating your emails. If you haven't done this, this is an important step to really optimize deliverability. What do I mean by this? Well, in Microsoft Outlook, you may open up emails and you might see it say such and such at cmail20.com sent on behalf of whatever your email is. In Gmail, it tends to say, the example that we show here, Sally at designco.com via cmail20.com. Every mass email provider sends their emails out through their mass email servers. Those are generically named, such as cmail20.com. Everyone has their own. And they can be flags for spam filters. So your IT department can put a little snippet of code to authenticate emails coming from these specific domain names are sent actually on your behalf, so that when it's received, it's actually looking like it comes from your company and not through a mass email server. This many times helps reduce getting caught in spam filters, improves deliverability. Word of caution here though, because you are connecting these mass email servers to your domain, if you abuse email and are actually sending out spam, you will actually take a hit on your own domain name in spam filters. So what do I mean by that? You're getting a lot of reports of spam because you're abusing it. And let's say one of the spams is your board chair. Their filter automatically filters out emails. Now you go and you say, oh, I need to reach out to my board chair. And you go into your own email and actually send a personal email to the board chair. It may end up in spam because your domain has been flagged as spam. So authentication is very good. We recommend it. But if you abuse it, it can actually backfire big time. One of the next most obvious things with email is subject lines. We see it right away in our inbox. Sender name and subject line really are what drives people to say, hey, I'm interested. And subject line is the purpose of, why should I care? Why should I open this? We find the best subject lines are clear, direct, and concise. I know there's theories out there of trying to just be vague and mysterious and get people to open. In head-to-head tests we've done, they don't work. People are too busy. They want to know why they're opening it. So be direct, be clear, tell them why they should care. Secondly, don't make it about you and your organization. Make it about what your recipient can do to advance your mission. It's the typical don't use us, use you language. Don't say, help us feed the children. Say, you can help feed a hungry child. Consider using the person's name in the subject line. Jesse, you can help feed a hungry child. We do this in our own emails. We do it on occasion with client emails. And every time we do it, we tend to see about a 10 to 20% lift in open rates. So it does work. You don't have to do it in every email, but it is something that actually can get somebody's attention and bring this really directly into focus for the recipient. Last comment on subject lines. Yes, you can use urgency, but please don't overdo it. We all know the story of the boy who cried wolf. So if every email is an urgent action, no email is an urgent action because people will just tune it out. So if you're going to use urgency, use it sparingly when needed. Pre-header text. If you're familiar with this, congrats. Many people are not. And pre-header text is just a simple thing you can look at in your own system where it simple text that goes above the header in an email. Some platforms even allow you to make it invisible when somebody opens it. It's primarily used for the inbox because without it, usually you see the code of the HTML code of the header image, if that's the first thing, right under the subject line. Look at your own inbox if you don't believe me. See how it shows on inbox preview. This example here is one that I have shared with our team as soon as I got it because I feel like it is so powerful. The pre-header text here is every one of them matters. So if you look at this from a continuity standpoint, subject is young women need your help. Every one of them matters. So powerful. Every time I read this, it hits me because it makes me feel like, yes, they do matter. And I should open it to see what they're saying. The body of the email. This may seem obvious, but there are many different ways to send an email. If you're doing every email in the same exact format, mix it up. You know, you don't have to have an image at top. Maybe you just want your logo in a circle or a square or whatever, you know, shape it is. Maybe you want to put an image in the middle of the body. Maybe the message is a personal style email that you want from your CEO and you want it to actually look like an Outlook email or an email that he's personally penning and you match his email signature. Go for it. There's different styles. One is not necessarily better than another. It depends on what is the purpose of the email and match the design to that. If you have the capability, consider doing animated images. Have some movement in there. Or videos tend to work very well. Now, they don't do video playback, but as you can see on the screen here, you can actually take an image, really draw your recipients in by showing it as an image with a big play button that really gets people to know where to click. If you do this, I want one comment, don't send them to a YouTube page or Vimeo page because you're never going to get them to the donation page if that's your goal. If your goal is for them just to watch the video, fine. But if your goal is for a donation, look at putting that video on your donation page and then driving them there. And when they click the video, it goes to the donation page, the video is there, they play the video, and they don't have to take any further action to donate. In the body of an email, one of the most important things is your call to action, whether it's to register for an event, whether it's to read more, whether it's to give and donate to your cause. Make sure your call to action is clear. Make sure it is singular. The more calls to action you have in an email, the more confusion there is, and the less likely your emails will result in the engagement you want. Make sure that you link in multiple places what you want somebody to do. We actually tend to find that a lot of people click on images, especially the header image if you use an image in the header. I'm not exactly sure why this is, although some theories have that on a mobile phone, it's a big block of a link, so it's a lot easier to click than small in-text link and even buttons. But link everything. You can link as much as you want, but make sure it's linked to the same place if you have a singular call to action. When we talk about your buttons, be creative. Don't just talk about donate now or give now. Tie it to your mission or make it more of a rallying cry. Yes, count me in. Or here's my gift to end hunger. Connected to what you're trying to do. It continues to reinforce to the recipient that they're not just giving, they're actually taking an action to do something and make an impact. Footers. Too often forgotten about, but if you are in a large organization or a highly regulated industry, footers are critical, absolutely critical. If you're smaller or less regulated, it's still important. Why? It's an opportunity for you to extend conversation with some of your social media icons, specifically for, say, newsletters. You could say continue to, stay on top of the latest news by following us and connecting to your social icons. It's an opportunity for you to reinforce why somebody is receiving the email. Many times people unsubscribe because they don't know why they're getting the email. They don't remember signing up for it, especially if you're an organization such as a healthcare organization that may be going and reaching out to, patients or things like that. They may not understand why they're receiving it, even though they have opted in. So remind them, you are receiving this email because X, Y, Z. It'll help minimize unsubscribes and, more importantly, minimize spam complaints. Every footer should have an unsubscribe button. By law and ethics, it needs to be there and visible. But you can also help minimize your unsubscribes by having a preference center if your email system allows this. Person receiving it may not want to receive emails about events, or may not want to receive emails about your fundraising. They may only want to receive certain types of emails. At least keep them engaged and give them the option. Otherwise, they're unsubscribed from everything. So you can utilize subscriber preference buttons to your advantage to really help keep people engaged and hopefully hook them back again down the road. So we started off by saying, oh yeah, just send out an email. It's simple. Is it really? Well, a lot goes into sending a good email. It's not something you can just do on the fly. When we sit down with our clients, we look at and answer each one of these questions. What's the purpose of this email? Who am I sending it to? Is this really built to be an email and email friendly? Is it mobile friendly? Please never copy paste your direct mail letter and put it into an email body. Email is email, it's not direct mail. It is different. Utilize the channel and the strengths for what it is. Is this a standalone email or is it part of something larger? Pro tip, schedule things out, build a plan. Unless it's like a newsletter email, we generally build all of our emails as multi-touch, any fundraising campaign or any event communications. It should be part of multiple touches, each one with its own purpose, target audience, storyline, And how do we take that arc? Let's take this example of a summer camp who wants to raise money. Maybe there's a direct mail appeal that went out as well. Well, your direct mail appeal may have multiple stories in it, or one, and then the email has an opportunity to extend that story or to break up those multiple stories into multiple touch points. One email might be from the angle of the camper and the impact that the camp had on them. Another email might be the angle from the counselor who helped create the impact on that camper. And a third email might be from the angle of a donor, thrilled at the impact that they're able to have and asking people to join him in continuing to further the impact possible. Each one taking the same storyline and just breaking it into different messages. This is the power of how you can actually build out a full strategy and multi-touch in email. So let's get into harnessing the power of your data. And first off, if every email you send to everyone on your list, please stop. Please stop. Exception, you have 100 names on your list. If you have a very small list, okay, understandable. But if your list is growing and you're in the several hundreds or thousands or 10,000s or hundreds of thousands, you need to be more targeted. So what do we do and how do we work through this? Well, we focus on creating segments. There's multiple different ways to do this. You may decide you want to do different lists, but ultimately the way that we work through this is that we usually have for our clients one list with different segments built within that list. And those segments may be based off of giving history, constituency type. Donor attributes could be volunteer or board member or committee member, or however you want to define donor attributes. Interests could be known interests that they have. Think about like a school, somebody may be interested in funding arts, one athletics, one teacher development. If this is known, you can start to develop different segments and understand what drives each one of them. Geography. No offense to those in Texas, but if you have a walkathon in Texas, I live in New Jersey. Don't send me the email. Makes no sense. Now, I know that sounds obvious, but not everyone does it. And you'll be surprised at how many emails I get that don't apply to me at all. Some of these you may have, some of these you don't. Some people on this call may have email engagement scoring, and I congratulate you if you do email scoring. If you do, those who are most highly engaged, you can push the envelope a bit more. And those who are less engaged, you may want to back off. But that's a good segment to be looking at and understanding these people who are engaged. Are they continuing to stay engaged as you push the envelope, or is there a breaking point? So you can really break this stuff down and look at it to determine how you better target who gets what mailing. Especially, let's look at like Giving Tuesday. You might be sending out 5 emails over the span of a few weeks around Giving Tuesday. Not everyone needs every email, but utilizing segments like this allows you to determine who should be getting which email. And next, let's look at the potentials for variables within your list. Just like your mail merge or variable data printing aspects, you can utilize variable data within emails. So common ones that we run into and that we utilize, both create new segment or to create specific reference points within an email will be name. We already used the reference about name and subject, date of first and or last gift, maybe number of years given, last gift amount, interest or fund given to. Here's an example. We talked about the schools, arts, athletics, professional development. You might actually have different images in your header or wherever you put it in the body of the email based off of each one of those interests, so that visually you're aligning with what you know the donor wants. City or state of residence. So here's an example, right? You might have a letter that comes from your executive director and goes, John, thank you so much for being a loyal donor these past 10 years. The impact you've made over these years have ... right? Specific, personal connection. You might want to say, as you know, as a neighbor of ours in Newark, right? Referencing where people are. Now, you can get to a creepy level of this, so make sure that the level of detail you put matches the purpose of the email. If it's a very mass-looking email, you might want to minimize the personal mentions on it. But if it's a more personal style email from your executive director or somebody else, you can add a few more personal details to it, making sure, obviously, that your data is good. For this, though, you also need to make sure you have good data. It's very important, list data, and I hear this all the time from our clients, but my data is not good. Well, there's things you can start to do, and it's a long-term process you build up. The first thing you can do, since we're talking about emails, is validate your email addresses. If you don't know what this means, after this presentation, Google email validation services. There's a number of places out there that do this. You easily upload your email list. They will scrub it through and they will let you know which emails will bounce, which emails are what's called catch-all, and it'll help identify whether you should cull some of your list down to improve your overall deliverability and your engagement and results. I'm surprised by the amount of times that I get lists from organizations and the email address they have is no reply at. I'm not joking. That does come across to my desk. They should never be part of any email. It's not going to get there anyway. Make sure your system is updated regularly. A lot of people like to create integrations or will be stuck in a system that they don't like because it's easily integrated with their donor management system. I understand that integration is key, but you can also create a regular update schedule of exporting from your donor management system, importing with rules into a really good email platform that you might like. Either way, the key is about regularly updating emails and making sure that those that unsubscribe are marked as do not email in your donor management system. Those who have not been engaging for a long time, you may want to consider removing and cleaning up your email. Many clients that we have where it's a more broader based list, it's not a very insular list, we will usually 15 months, look at taking the list of people who haven't engaged and sending out kind of a last chance email. Like, hey, do you still want to receive these? If so, by opening it, we'll keep you on. If not, you won't hear from us again unless you ask to be added back in. And we call the list over and over every so often. This makes sure that those who really just don't engage on email aren't really clogging up your system. So my favorite part now, all about analytics. Metrics are really only as good as understanding how to use them. Most people don't like metrics. They don't like analytics. They take their email reports, they might put it on a spreadsheet, They might send it to their board, they might send it to their boss, and they might pat themselves on the back, or they might say, hey, we need to do better. But they don't actually look at the analytics to determine how do they do better. And analytics really tell you what you need to work on and how you can improve things. So everything we've talked about so far is leading up to understanding your analytics and making sure that you can implement the tweaks to get where you want to go. So the metrics that we're showing here are metrics we measure regularly and we talk about. Open rate, pretty obvious. Amount of percentage of people who opened who were sent. This generally judges the quality of your sender and subject. If they're engaging, people will open. It can judge the quality of time it was sent, but that's secondary. More powerful is understanding sender name and subject. So if your open rates suffer, look at those areas first. Average open rate, according to the M&R benchmarks of 2021, is around 21% for nonprofits. And so if you're under that, look at those areas. If you're above that, congratulations. But 21% still means that 79% of people don't open it. So there's still room for improvement. Click rate is a common term used in most email platforms. We don't actually utilize click rate too much because in our opinion, the better metric to look at is actually click-through rate. Because if somebody doesn't open the email, it makes no measure whatsoever to understand if they clicked. They obviously didn't. So click-through rate measures how many people clicked compared to how many people opened it. And this judges the quality of your call to action, your messaging, and the body and format of your email. Did it drive people to actually do the action you wanted? You can sometimes actually see click-through rates higher than open rates. Why? Well, 20% of people might have opened it, but out of those people, 40% of them might have actually taken action on it. And that's a good quality measurement. Next, you want to understand how many people who clicked actually went to the place that you asked them to do. So if it's an event registration, it would be to your registration form. And if it is to your donate, it's a fundraising email, it's how many people clicked to donate. And so this is where we get back to, it's really key to have a singular call to action. If you have multiple calls to action, you create confusion, but the purpose of the email is to raise money. And so you want to actually measure, are people clicking where you want them to go? If your percentage is 90 to 100%, good job. If it's 70% or lower, you're probably creating confusion. And you might want to look at streamlining that. Next, we're going to talk about what we call the most important metric most nonprofits don't measure. And it's really your conversion rate. You can have the best emails in the world. You may not have any issues with your email, but your digital fundraising isn't working. How would you know that? Well, you want to look at your conversion rate, which simply divides the number of records who donated in a given time period by the number of records who went to your online donation page. So if we look at an email went out, how many people clicked to the donation page within a certain period of time, and how many people actually donated in that time. Now, don't stress. Averages are, I think, somewhere around 17%. If you think about it like online shopping, it's about, the item is in your cart. Do you abandon the cart, or do you, fulfill the item? It's an important metric, though, because we've had clients where we've driven hundreds or even thousands of people to their donation page, but they might only get 50 gifts. So the issue is not the email. The email is working. It's their donation page. So the conversion rate helps you understand where to take your attention and focus on. The great thing here is this webinar is put on as well by QGIF. And QGIF does great donation pages, simple mobile-friendly donation pages. So if you struggle with that, you should talk to them about it. Next, you might have a constituency that's older and doesn't like giving online, isn't sure about it. You may determine that you want to actually put wording in that says, make your secure online gift here, reinforcing that it is all safe and fine. You may find that people just aren't donors online. Therefore, some emails you send out, you may want to actually state in there that there are multiple ways they can give. They can give securely online here. They can call the office here. They can send mail payment here. Make it easy and let the analytics help you determine what's going on. It may not be your email that is the issue. Remember when we talked about segments a few slides ago? They help you target. Many email platforms also allow you to measure and measure engagement by segment. So this is a common thing we do. This is a screenshot of just one of our clients, and it just shows a breakdown of multiple different segments and different engagement across the board. It helps you understand which segments are overperforming the baseline, which segments are underperforming the baseline, which segments you might need to change. We've made recommendations to clients that they need to actually not pursue young professionals through a more direct response focus with email and direct mail. It needs to be done more in a peer-to-peer environment, in which case we've kind of brought QGIF in to work through and walk that out. So there's lots of different opportunities, but use segment insights to help you understand who's doing really well and who actually needs improvement, and focusing on that. A/B testing, a data geek's best friend. Many email platforms allow streamlined A/B testing. What do you need to do to get started? You need to understand what component of the email are you testing? Subject, sender, body, button text, what is it? Who will determine the winner, or what will determine the winner? Rule of thumb, open rate will be dependent on sender or subject. Click-through rate or clicking on a link will be based off of call to button or body of email. You want to also determine how many addresses you want to send out. Most email platforms allow you to send up to anywhere from 10 to 50% of the final targeted list to create the test. How long will it run for? We generally recommend 24 hours unless you get good, quick engagement, in which case it could be less. And then a lot of platforms will send out the balance of the emails to the winner. Here are some A/B tests that we recommend commonly to our clients. Individual name of sender versus organization name. You might have two individual names that you want to see which one works. Variable name in the subject versus generic. You might also say, man, I really struggle with two different subject lines here. Which one should I choose? Well, test them, see which one works. You might want to test picture versus no picture in an email, or animated versus static image. You might want to test what I mentioned here, donate now versus yes, count me in, or some other text. You might want to test two completely different styles of email. That's okay. Depending on your platform, you can do it. Don't be shy. And so data tells a story. It shouldn't be put on a spreadsheet. It should be actionable. What do we do with data? Let's say you send an email out today. You got a 40% email rate. We have certain clients that average 40% plus on their emails, and they send to thousands and tens of thousands of records. That's great, but it also means that 60% of people didn't open it. So next week, or a few days later, send the same email maybe change the subject and change the time of day you sent it to the people who didn't open the first one. You'll get a bounce, I guarantee it. You might want to understand and look at your analytics of who opened but didn't click and add them to a follow-up email or a follow-up mailing that you're doing. Those who clicked to donate but did not give, you might want to actually reach out with one of those. Here's additional ways to give, just to prompt them and make sure that they give. If it's a major donor or a major prospect that you have, you may want to get them on the phone and not be like, hey, I saw that you clicked on the donate page but didn't donate. No, just check in and ask if they have any questions that you can answer and help them, and reinforce that relationship. Continue to do A/B testing. Take the winners of different A/B tests and test against each other. Every organization, no matter how good, can always improve. So I'm running out of time here. And before Kim cuts me off, let's do a quick recap of what we talked about today. Make sure to plan and strategize your emails. These are not things you can just do on a whim, or they shouldn't be, if you want to get the results you're after. Change things up. Don't do the same thing all the time. Be creative. Don't ever think that you've got it all figured out, because there's always better ways to do things. Utilize different segments, tailor, version, and measure against one another for better results. Don't ever send everything out to everyone all the time. Now, some emails you should send to the whole list, but you should still measure the segments against each other on how they perform. Use A/B testing as your friend. Don't ever guess at what works. Know what works by having the data. And so with that, I'm pretty much, I think, out of time. I want to thank everyone for joining. If you liked what I talked about here, we do a weekly blog on amplifynp.com. We also have an ebook on emails that go into some more detail here and other great topics. We share all our insights with the nonprofit community. So I'm ready to take over your questions. And Kim, have at it.
All right. So thank you, Jesse. That was actually some great information. And I know I'm going to be looking at my emails a little bit differently. So if anyone has any questions they'd like to put into the questions box, I know someone had raised their hand a moment ago. So if you have a question, go ahead and enter that. We did have a few folks that had to leave a little early. So we do have a couple questions from them. They're hoping to catch it in the recording. So Jesse, what's the biggest mistake nonprofits make when launching an email a campaign?
Thinking it's easy. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't just, turn around and say, okay, I'm just going to send out a direct mailer and whip it up and send it out in a few minutes. Now, urgent campaigns, crisis campaigns, yes, you need to kind of be reactive, but you need to have you do need to have a plan and in place. You need to understand the purpose of the email. Who does it go out to? You got to answer those questions. And it's not just send something out, because it's just not going to work.
Makes sense. So what do you do when someone's really engaged with your emails, but they're not making a donation?
Keep sending them emails. We believe in our philosophy is engagement precedes action. And so with that, what we mean by it is those who are not engaged with things are not really, are the least likely to all of a sudden create action. Those who are engaged, keep them engaged and find different ways to get them to take action. It might not be in a direct, like, clicking on the donate now. Invite them to an event, try something else to get them further engaged. But the more engaged people are, and we do this even on direct mail tests, by the way. So one of the things, if a client uses email scoring, It's actually put into how we target direct mail, because with clients that utilize this, the higher engagement they have on emails, the more likely they are to respond to your direct mail as well. Sometimes it's just also the media. We see people are engaged on the information, they're not comfortable giving digitally. Hit them with direct mail. Utilize that data.
Okay. Jesse, do you have any recommendations for email length? Is it true that shorter is better?
Email link?
Length.
Oh, email length?
Yes.
It sounds like a cop-out, but we don't believe there's one standard all across the board. You have to find out what works for your constituency. We have some clients that literally will do 3 or 4 paragraphs in an email, and they're fantastic, but that works for their constituency. But not every email is like that either. You mix it up. In general, we do prefer shorter is better. 1 paragraph, more visual. But if you're doing like a text-based personal email, you can make it a little longer. Depends on the purpose of the email. It's not a hard and fast rule. The bigger key is it engaging?
Okay, well, thank you on that. I hope that answers your question. Melina, Deborah's asking, do you alert your test recipients that they are part of a test? And how do you organize that? Do you randomly pick a few constituents? Also, what about dropping those? There's quite a bit in this one. Why don't we start with that? Do you alert your test recipients?
So no, and a lot of times it depends on your email platform. So I can't speak to what you use and how it works. I would go into the support functions and see. But commonly, with platforms that keep it streamlined, it literally is you say, okay, I'm going to go out to this list in total for this email. And then in the A/B test, it says, okay, what percentage of that list do you want to actually send the test to? And you get to decide, you set the length, and it automatically sends 2 emails randomly. The system chooses, we don't. System sends it out, tracks what the engagement. It knows the winner of open rate or click rate. And at the end of that time frame, whichever one opened, whichever one is the winner, the balance is automatically sent out to. It's hands-free, it's seamless, it's all a matter of being set up in the beginning. Now, if your platform doesn't allow that, it does need to be more involved manually, which makes things a little bit harder, but we would never tell somebody they're part of a test because you don't want to create bias. You would just literally take your list, do A, B, and just, every nth so pull that list, send it out, test A, test B, with one change, only one change, so you can test the impact of that change. There may not be any difference between it, and then we also usually recommend doing 2 A/B tests of the thing apart from each other, unless it's really definitive, because that just makes sure that the results are not just a one-time thing, it's a repeatable situation.
A follow-up question for that was, what about dropping those unopeners who gave in the past? How far back do you go and consider them still alive?
Well, I think it also depends on, how they gave. If they've given, if you know this, if you know that they've given digitally in the past, you might want to keep them on longer. If you know that they've given by direct mail and you're keeping them on email, but they never engage on your emails, then that may not make sense anymore. Secondly, you may not want to drop them completely, but you may want to minimize them to just some key emails that you decide each year, and not hit them every time you're sending an email. Average nonprofit sends somewhere around 50 emails a year. Those who are not engaged, they don't want 50 emails. It just clogs up their inbox.
Ready? Pamela is asking, do you have any comparison stats between email and direct mail?
Our philosophy is it's not either or. It's really a both end. They support each other. There are times that should be maybe for budget reasons or resource reasons, digital takes precedence because it's more cost effective. Your cost per donation is less because it's more cost effective. But overall, your response rate on direct mail is usually much higher than email. So we don't like to look at these as either or. We like to look at how do they work together to actually advance response within a campaign. We go into much more detail on this in our blog. We have some ebooks and blogs about it if that viewer wants to read more about some of our thoughts on it.
Okay, well, we're coming up on time. I did want to share a compliment that Alex posted. He said, wow, best webinar I've attended in a long time. So Jesse, I really do want to thank you. This has been some great information. And I wanted to remind everyone, in addition to thanking you again for joining us, we are going to be emailing out tomorrow a follow-up email with a link to today's recording, a copy of the presentation, some links. I know Jesse has a blog that he's sharing and some resources on his site, as well as some QGive resources. So please be on the lookout for that. If you would like to reach out to either the QGive team or to Jesse's team, we do also have the contact information here, and it'll be sent to you tomorrow as well. So please don't forget to take the survey as you're finishing up today. And we really, again, hope the information we covered helps you improve your email engagement and therefore improve your fundraising. So thank you again. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we will be in touch. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks
Jesse.
all.
Great stuff.
Have a great day.